Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Kat about RAPH Shadow Legends. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do kind of a guide to the Deck of Fates fusion events that happen occasionally in the game. And this is coming from my recent experience with the Deck of Fate fusion for Raphael of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this is a lot of what I learned as a result of the experience. Trust me, I learned a lot. And I'm going to kind of talk about how the event went for me, what I learned in the process, and what you should know about a Deck of Fates event before going into it. So, if you hear me say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are collaborating with RAPH Shadow Legends. We have now have access to Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael, and you too can get Michelangelo for free in your account just by logging in for 7 days. And you get a bunch of other good stuff, plus his Perfect Soul at the end of the 2 weeks, and then an even more upgraded Perfect Soul at the end of a little bit longer. Plus, if you use the link in my description, you get the legendary Corrado Fox Hunter as soon as you complete the tutorial, followed by Yugo, who is an epic support champion at level 15. She's super helpful for Hydra. Lady Annabelle is also an epic support that you get at level 30, and she is super helpful in Curse City and Doom Tower. And then Deacon Armstrong is another epic support champion, but he is good everywhere, and he really fits with the music that you hear in the background. Use the promo code Monkey King to get yourself Sun Wukong, so that's another legendary. And then if you log in for 7 days and get Michelangelo, that's 3 legendaries. So it's a solid way to start your account. It's how anyone should start their account, frankly, when it comes to RAPH Shadow Legends. Always start with a creator code, even if it's not mine. Use somebody else's, but mine's pretty good, mostly because of Deacon Armstrong. Deck of Fates events are much more difficult than any other fusion that I have experienced. So I've done a lot of fusions in the game in almost the year that I've been playing, and nothing has shook me as much as a Deck of Fate. Now, that could be because I'm unfamiliar with them, but it also could be because they're really difficult, and I'm going to talk about the limitations that come from a Deck of Fate fusion. So in this case, to get Raphael of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the only way to earn the event points was to open soul stones and to utilize gear hunting. Now that sounds pretty straightforward, but the thing is you needed a lot of them in order to get through the entire event, because not only, and this is another reason why they're so difficult, it is not realistic to assume that you're going to get the fragments that you need for the champion without flipping all of the cards. And typically in a Deck of Fate fusion, there are 40, which means that you basically have to get 40,000 points. So the soul stones, when you were summoning them, these were worth 70 points, these were worth 700, and these were worth 3,500. So that's not very much. And then as I was farming, most of the time, one round would net me about 18 to 22 points. So on average, about 20 points per round. You know, you can put the math together on that. It required a lot of resources. And unfortunately, because of how limited it was with only being able to use soul stones and do the gear hunting, if you are not prepped with the amount of soul stones that you needed, you were kind of screwed. And so that was my situation when the event began. So major takeaways for Deck of Fates is that there are typically only 2 ways of getting event points versus a traditional fusion where, you know, there's champion chases and specific dungeons that you go to, and some gear hunting and some gear enhancement. There's a lot of different events. It spreads out your focus pretty evenly, and if you're not really well versed in one area, you can kind of make up for it if you are good in one another dungeon, for example. Essentially, you have to, in this case with the soul stones, you had to have been saving those soul stones and prepping for months and months and months, or you had to be ready to spend a crazy amount of energy. So that's how the Deck of Fates events work. And so in the future, that's what you need to be prepared for, that they are kind of a whale event. So it's something to keep in mind. Let's talk about how it went for me. So at first, I panicked, and then I took a breath to strategize. I didn't start at day 1 because I was freaking out a little bit. But the nice thing was I got a lot of good advice from people on Reddit and a lot of encouragement and help from the YouTube comments. First off, that might be the only time somebody has ever said that somebody got help from the YouTube comment. YouTube comments were helpful. Nobody ever says that. One of the pieces of advice that I got was that I sold off a bunch of souls for champions that I was likely never going to get or never going to use. Even if I did get them, that allowed me to get an Eternal Soul Stone. So that was 3,500 points, basically 3 card flips that I wasn't expecting to have, and then I did have. So that helped me a lot. Now, I did end up spending for this. I because of my lack of preparation, I think there was no way I was going to get it without spending. I bought a $30 pack of soul stones that basically worked out to me getting 6 immortal soul stones, and that was 4,200 points. So that was a big chunk right there. And then I also was utilizing the daily gem pack, which is something I always recommend. This is 50 gems a day, 250 to start, and it's $10, and it goes for a whole month, 30 straight days. And you get a lot of 50 gems, and then it later progresses to 60 gems after you get a big chunk of 200. It's one of the best values in the game, and that was necessary for me for energy refills. Because as much as I did all of those soul stones and everything, it didn't get me quite to where I needed to be. And so the rest of the Deck of Fate event had to come from spending crazy energy. So I basically spent every single multi-battle that I had. I had a bunch that were sitting in my inbox, like stacks of 50s that were sitting there that I hadn't been able to get through normally. And then I just went into, the advice I got was to go to Event Dungeon Stage 3, because that was the best bang for your buck as far as energy goes. It cost me 16 energy per run, and obviously it goes by really fast. And I netted on average about 20 points per battle. So I basically went through Event Dungeon Stage 3 endlessly. I went through hundreds of multi-battles, and then eventually had to switch to just manually tapping it once I ran out of multi-battles. And then I went through, I think, about 2,000 gems going through the entire event. And it was nuts. And ultimately, I did have to open all 40 cards. I was down to 2 cards left, and I kind of freaked out a little bit because I only had 80 fragments. And I was like, what if I don't get them all? And there were 2 cards left, and both of them were sets of 10. So it ended up being okay. I got through the whole event. I got Raphael. And he will be, I know you're probably seeing all of these just sitting here. Their personal CVC starts today when I post this video. I'm saving all of them to get buku points on all of that stuff. So I have a bunch of potions ready for him. I have some food to rank him up. I have a barrel that I also got from the Deck of Fates event. So we'll be able to level him up like crazy, but I'm going to save that all for today. So here's my conclusion. I don't like these events. I think it did teach me a lot. Mainly that I had never done a Deck of Fate fragment fusion before, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of wailing. Ultimately, when you start playing the long game of Raid Shadow Legends, when you've been playing for a while, you're going to have to expect, especially for a fusion like this, even traditional fusions, you have to kind of hoard resources. So whether that be gems, silver, shards, soul stones, all of those should be hoarded to a sense. Like, you know, if something's going to expire, obviously use it and bring it into your account, but you want to save your resources for big events, for big champions. Now, in this case, I really, really wanted Raphael. I in fact needed him because I have the 2 other turtles, and I want to be able to make more videos in the future and talk about using all 4 turtles together. Now, we have one more event coming for Leonardo. That's still going to be a ways out. We have another fusion for Sanguine Maria before then. But in order to do one of these Deck of Fate events again, I'm going to have to really, really want this champion. And that is the only reason I went through all of this, was because I really, really wanted him. But it was a big pain, and it was a lot of use of resources. But it did teach me to be more proactive about other aspects of the game that I've been kind of slacking on, such as the Iron Twins Fortress, and also those Gear Ascension events. So that's going to be a main way that you end up getting a lot of those immortal soul stones. We have one currently running, and I have been all over it. The final reward at the end of all of that is an immortal soul stone. So I'm going to be a lot more proactive about those in the future, because the immortal soul stones are really hard to get. And pretty much the only way to get them is to do those your Ascension events, or you can get them in the Mystic Market by using the immortal coins. You can get some coins from events and other things like that, but keep in mind these resources are pretty heavily bottlenecked. So, good idea is to conserve those and use them for and kind of save up your soul stones for big events such as these. So, let me know down in the comments what you think about if you have any questions about Deck of Fate's events, any questions on my experience, or you can leave some advice in the comments for people who might be doing a Deck of Fate fusion in the future. So hopefully this is a guide for people, little ideas of what to expect if you are going to be doing a Deck of Fate event anytime in the near future. This was my experience and the best advice I can give. So if you want to start playing Raid Shadow Legends, the link in my description will get you, again, 3 legendaries and 3 epics. And all of them are really fantastic, very useful, all in their own right. Don't forget to use the promo code Monkey King in order to get Sun Wukong, that 2nd epic, and then your 3rd epic, Michelangelo, will hit your account after 7 days of logging in. So that's everything I have for today. Thank you guys again for being here, and I will see you in the next video.